Welcome back, everybody. So today is the day. If you've been following the channel, we have been doing a lure box giveaway going back to, I had to check, I think it's August 8th or 9th. We have been doing it for quite a while. That being said, if you're new to the channel, so we've been doing a lure box giveaway in a series format. So every video that we didn't end up catching a 4-pounder, we continued the lure box giveaway and we put a lure in the box. So as you'll see, by all of the lures that we have here, we did awful in summer and fall. But that means a lot of lures for you guys. Oddly enough, I did catch a few, I guess, 4-pounders prior to doing this, so there's probably a lesson in that. But we did not catch a 4-pounder since August whatever. We've gotten very, very close. I think we caught like 5 or 6 fish that were less than a quarter pound away, which is crazy. But we never ended up hitting that 4-pound mark. But nevertheless, so we will be doing this giveaway over on Instagram, so make sure to follow along over there. We'll drop my username down there so it's a little bit easier to find. There's not a ton of people that follow me over on Instagram, so if you do enter, you probably have a relatively decent chance to win. The rules and everything like that will be over there on the post on December 1st. So hopefully somebody can get these lures, end up catching a bunch of fish. We put everything under the sun in this box so that you can just go out and fish immediately. All different types of techniques and everything else like that, so it doesn't matter when you're getting this or when you're able to use it. Spring, summer, fall, winter, should be able to catch some fish. So that is great. But yeah, let's get into kind of everything that we've got in here. So starting off with some of the simple stuff, just soft plastics. We've got some creature baits, some worms, trailers, stick baits, straight tail worms for that finesse fishing. For more finesse, we have got some TRDs from Z-Man, some stuff to throw on Ned rigs. For our swim baits, we've got multiple different types of swim baits, different colors, all that good stuff. We've got a couple spinner baits and swim jig with an overspin. Top water, we got top water. Can't go wrong with a frog. Got a Chopo, love Chopos. Vibrating jigs, we got jackhammers, slobber knockers. Jackhammer's like $20. We've got another swim jig and football head. We've got, for our regular swim baits, I think that's like a $25 or $30 lure. I checked everything, and we'll kind of talk about that at the end. But yeah, Buka. I did look to see how much was actually in this box. I did check retail. I'm sure some of this stuff you could definitely find on sale and whatnot, but we just tried to find a relatively decent price as far as that goes, so we can talk about that at the end. But we got Agent Ease for that cold weather, Gobius if that's your flavor, Savage Gear Structure Gill for those crankbaits. We got Arc, Bagley, Majorcraft. And we have to go ahead and, because this is our last video, we have to give something else away too. So we'll go ahead and give away another jig and another vibrating jig. Got most of the brands there. All this that we are giving away, just this right here, is really close to like $250. So tons of stuff. Whoever gets this should most certainly be able to just go out and catch some fish. That being said, we don't have any terminal tackle, so I do have a bunch of terminal tackle that we are giving away also. Some of those were like sample packs, so we didn't even include that in the price, but well over $250 for whoever gets all this stuff. Loads of fun. Hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future, but hopefully whoever gets this enjoys it and catches a bunch of fish. I'd love to see some pictures or videos of whoever catches those, or catches some fish on this guy. But yeah, loads of fun. But again, go follow over on Instagram. We will go ahead and have all the rules over there, so you guys can most certainly read over there and see what's going on. But that being said, here in Wisconsin, we're getting some absolutely nasty weather. Very, very cold. So ice fishing season is right around the corner if it hasn't already started. So The first video that I always like to do in the start of ice fishing season is a safety one, so we will go ahead and roll that. But good luck to everybody who enters. Hopefully you like it. Welcome back, everybody. So the start of every ice fishing season, the first video I always want to do is related to safety. First off, no fish is worth your life. So if you ever feel unsafe or, you know, like you're in a sketchy situation, it's definitely not worth it. So let's preface everything by that. But that being said, no ice is 100% safe. So you should most certainly take as much precaution as you possibly can going out on the ice. And again, if it ever just feels wrong, just don't go out and do it. But as far as trying to be safe on the ice, we're going to kind of break things down into what you can kind of do to prevent ending up in some of those sketchy situations, and then, you know, some of the things that you can use to help yourself get out of that sketchy situation. So first off, preventatively, I would always let somebody know where you're going. We're pretty secretive about our fishing spots and whatnot, but again, your secret fishing spot is not worth your life. So I would go ahead and let people know, obviously, where you're going, when you plan to be back, that sort of thing. Beyond that, do some due diligence. Usually online, there's plenty of posts of, you know, lakes in your area that probably talk about ice conditions. This winter, I actually plan on trying to do that a little bit more, kind of talk about the ice conditions, so people in the areas kind of have a little bit better of an idea of what they're getting into. But so yeah, do some research before you go out, because you don't want to drive out to a spot and then find out that the ice is trash and then end up having to go home. So those two things you can do before even heading out to the ice, and that'll help you greatly. Next thing is, obviously, once you're getting out to the ice, the one thing on early ice, late ice especially, too, I never go without is a spud bar. A spud bar is going to let you know, essentially, whether that ice is somewhat safe enough to go ahead and walk on. You have to go ahead and hit the ice relatively hard. It's not, you know, there to tap around and kind of like convince yourself that the ice is safe enough to go onto. You're actually trying to hit the ice relatively hard to make sure that it's safe enough to go on. Typically, this spud bar is going to go through before you will. So again, use it to the best of your abilities. You know, first ice, I always track out there, stay in that same line that I've been in before I start venturing out any further, and I'll take that same line back, you know, back to the shoreline. So for me, typically it's hitting that same spot 3 times in a row. Typically 3 times is, for me, for as hard as I hit it, it's typically about 3 inches. So make sure to get out there, do a little bit of research for yourself, figure out how hard you have to hit things, and obviously kind of what is able to keep you above the ice. So make sure to do that. And again, I would always check frequently. I check every step, every couple steps going out, especially on, you know, early ice, late ice, because the ice can change drastically with, you know, there being drop-offs or, you know, a little bit of current or a creek channel or something like that. So it's not a you check and then you're just good to walk out around. I check every area, but that is something that's going to help you stay above, and incredibly important. Probably maybe the most important, but yeah. Beyond that, to keep you from having any sort of injuries, I would say the next thing that I always have is spikes. When you have a little bit of snow cover, it's not as bad. You do have a little bit of traction out there, but when you have like really glare ice, the opportunity to go ahead and fall is pretty high. So you might end up with a mechanical injury, or if you're on kind of thinner ice and you end up falling, that might be enough to crack through. So I would always take spikes out of some form or fashion. The ones I have, I think, are from, I think it's Eagle Claw or something like that, but they're relatively cheap. They last me an entire season. Sometimes I go through 2, but they're pretty cheap, and again, it'll prevent you from ending up with any sort of those mechanical injuries from falls and whatnot. So I always keep a pair of those out there, especially when you're running for flags and stuff like that. It's very nice, so you don't end up getting hurt in some form or fashion, and getting hurt on the ice and getting back to a vehicle is much more difficult. So I would just try to avoid that as much as possible. That is kind of it for what you can use prior to potentially ending up in one of those sketchy situations. Now, if you end up falling through, it's happened to me before. There are some things that you can most certainly have that'll help you get out of that situation that are wildly helpful too. The first thing I would always carry along with me, along with a spud bar, is a pair of ice picks. Trying to get out of the ice once you've gone through is incredibly difficult. And unless you're in that situation, it's hard to imagine how difficult it actually is. The ice picks will give you just a little bit of traction to potentially be able to like pull you out a little bit easier. So wear them around your neck. They're incredibly cheap, but they could be there to save your life. So I would always take those around with you every single trip. And it's pretty easy. Most of them have lanyards of some sort, so you can put them around your neck and stuff like that for easy access, because when you go through, it's hard to think straight. So that being said, the next thing I would go ahead and use, and this is somewhat newer for me, is the floating ice suits. They've come a long way since they first came out. They're incredibly comfortable. I've just got my bibs on right now. I don't have my jacket on, but I use the Striker ones. They are incredibly comfortable, keep you plenty warm. They do help you float. I had a video, I think, a couple years ago about just getting in the water with them, and they do keep you up. They obviously won't help you get out of the ice, but it'll make it much easier. So if you have the opportunity to go ahead and do that, I most certainly would. When I didn't have the money for an ice suit, I actually would bring around a life jacket on early and late ice, just in case. But that does help out a ton and whatnot. So, and then lastly, I would say another thing that's quite helpful to go ahead and have is just a rope. In case somebody in your party ends up going through, obviously you don't want to be ending up close to that weak ice also. So if you can go ahead and throw a rope to them and help them pull them out, wildly helpful. There's some other things that you could also have too, like a noise maker of some sort, like a whistle or something like that, to help notify people if you do end up going through the ice and whatnot. But I think those are the main things that I always do, early season and late season especially. But if there's anything I forgot, by all means comment that in the comment section down below. Hope everybody has an absolutely safe ice season. Hopefully you end up catching some big ones. As you can see, we're getting very close to ice season. We're not quite there yet. In the next day or two though, I think we'll be out on the ice. Have a great season.